Hello, my name is Vip Vipperman, and I'm excited to be back on the Back in the Bold podcast. We talk about entrepreneurs and incredible people that are boldly building and growing and investing. Today, we're having a conversation with Tommy Martin of the Tebow Group about his work in investing and counter human trafficking and so much more. Tommy, so glad to have you with us this morning, man.
Phip, thanks for having me, man. My only challenge is I don't feel worthy to be on a podcast called Backing the Bold. I have never had to be bold a day in my life the way that so many of my heroes have, but very grateful for you to have me here.
Well, I appreciate your humility too, my friend. Thanks for saying that. Well, Tommy, where are you in the country as we get started?
Yeah, home base for me is Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then our headquarters for Tebow is in Jacksonville, Florida. So I spend a lot of time in both locations. Now,
I'm here in DFW today, so a little distance between us. As we get started, why don't you just tell us a little bit of your backstory? Now, I know you from the last probably 4 or 5 years as we've gotten to know each other through things like Faith Driven Investor and through the Clapham Accelerator, but would love to hear a little bit of your story kind of starting out growing up in Fort Wayne.
Well, I'll give you the quick version, Vip. So started out as a triple major in college in Bible, youth ministry, and music. And found out I suck at all three of those. And Vip, I hope I'll be good at my Bible someday. But I was awful at music and I got burnt out in youth ministry. So I ended up accidentally in business. That led to accidentally becoming a serial business owner. And then we were very blessed. We had a pretty significant exit when I was 35 years old. I retired for 2 days, and at the end of the second day, my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, you need purpose." And that's really what drew me together with this guy that at the time was just kind of sweeping the nation by being bold about his faith on the football field. And this was a gentleman named Tim Tebow, and maybe a lot of your listeners have heard about him on the field, arguably the greatest college football player of all time. But really it was his work off the field that was so gaining so much respect from me and my family. His work really as a humanitarian, as a philanthropist, looking to do some pretty significant work for serving what we call the real MVP, not the most valuable player, but the most vulnerable people all over the globe. And today I'm so proud. I'm on the business side of the house, but on the foundation side of the house, they serve over 120 countries and all 50 states, hundreds of thousands of families per year that are benefiting from the work that Tim and his wife Demi are doing off the field. And that's something that maybe a lot of your listeners don't know about. So we can come back to that later. But my journey along the way, 10 years ago, when I retired for 2 days, after that second day of my wife saying, "Oh my gosh, you need purpose," I went back, launched some additional businesses. But through that, we had decided we didn't need our own family foundation because we loved the work that the Tebow Foundation was doing so much. We were just so impressed by it. And for us, it was a business decision. Why would we start our own foundation and have our own overhead when this gentleman that we'd never met, didn't expect to meet, was doing what seemed to be really, really incredible work in all of these areas that we were already passionate about. Things like international adoption, special needs children, the fight against human trafficking, children with life-threatening medical illnesses. They were already doing work in all of these areas, and those were the things that we as a family were passionate about. So we just said, why would we start over from scratch? Why don't we just throw in with this organization? And that was a decade ago. It's been one of the best decisions we ever could have made, and ultimately led to me joining and running the business side in partnership with Tim and Demi Tebow. But I'm sure we'll get back to that along the way.
No, that's incredible. Yeah, what a journey. Can you tell me just a little bit about your early business days? Like, what was it that you did that helped you to be able to retire at 35 or retire initially at 35?
Yeah. My first three businesses went absolutely nowhere. And so those were a lot of great lessons learned. And my fourth business, with some incredible partners, took off like a rocket ship and went nationwide very quickly. We built financial firms. So think of it: investment firms, tax firms, insurance agencies, service businesses that were related to the financial world. That's what we built, and ended up being wildly successful along the way. I also built some private funds, private real estate funds, private venture capital funds, and just had an incredible journey doing that and learned so much. Those were the companies that ultimately became successful.
Dude, that's pretty amazing. So why did you decide to sell at 35? I mean, you're building companies. You've got an incredible opportunity. Was there a reason you decided to go ahead and step out of that? Was it time to move on to something else?
Vip, I had a rough go during my middle school years. Made a lot of poor choices, and I had two boys that were going into middle school. And I had just really committed. I wanted to be home when my kids were in middle school. That was really important to me. And I didn't see a great pathway to do that, staying actively engaged with the business. So it was right along that time period that I cashed out, and ultimately then was able to take my kids to middle school almost every single day. Wow. I became the neighborhood chauffeur, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Probably left a whole lot of potential cash on the table exiting at the time I did. Those companies have gone on to grow massively larger than they were when I exited. But I don't regret it. I think it was one of the most important decisions I've ever made as a dad.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you have to make those family decisions that really help define like what's most important to you and who those folks are. Lord willing, your boys, if they don't already see it, at one point they can look back and see like, man, he really did care and take that time. Sometimes we're even talking, today's my daughter's 18th birthday. Which she's about to go off to college and all those exciting things are happening. But also thinking like, the sacrifices you made, the different things that you've done, the choices to love them, to care for them, to show those things. Sometimes they don't always realize that in the moment. So not that that's the most important part, but man, sometimes we'd hope that one day they get a chance to really, truly understand like how much we truly do care about them, that you're willing to do that. So cool. Awesome. Okay. So you got the companies, you make the sale, you get a chance to spend some time at home for a little bit and just kind of processing through the next season. What is it that drew you specifically to the Tebow Group? Like, why did, you with capital, with opportunity, you could have gone anywhere. Why'd you choose to this place and these people to partner with?
Yeah, there's a lot of people talk about making that shift from success to significance. Mm-hmm. And I certainly was feeling the need to do that. When we had our exit, it really impacted me. The responsibility that I felt with that, the weight. Why had we been blessed with the resources we had been blessed with? And I think one of the things that's always innately been real for me, Vip, is that it's not my money, it's not my resources. Ultimately, my personal worldview and background, I believe that these are God's resources, that I've only been entrusted with them for a time. And so for us, it was, how do we move to as much significance as possible? And that really meant being active day to day in our faith. And, the businesses I'd been a part of, that wasn't a piece of the core fabric of the businesses. So I kind of had set a stake in the ground to say, okay, the next thing I do at that point in my life, and this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I'd set a stake in the ground saying, I'm going to make sure that I can be highly active about my faith in my business day after day after day, that I would not have to check my faith at the door, that I could be the same guy, whether I was with friends, at home, at work, in a business, at church. Like, I just wanted to be the same guy and not have to, not have to worry about it, not try to be someone different given a new audience. And so that was a piece of it. And then I think the other piece was I was really looking to be more active about helping to solve some of the biggest problems in the world. And, as you get to know this gentleman, Tim Tebow, man, he and Demi are just contagious in their care and their passion and their pursuit of the most vulnerable people. And so, Vip, I'll give you one of my favorite, sorry, not one of my favorite. I think it's my most favorite conversation I've ever had professionally. And this was, I'd gotten with my wife and I becoming passionate about the Tim Tebow Foundation. We'd gotten involved over a decade ago now, but just peripherally. But through that, I'd gotten to know some of Tim's team at the foundation and on his business side. And fast forward, I guess about 3.5 years ago or so, I got a call from their team and they said, hey, we really need someone to run the business side so that Tim and his wife, Demi, can be more involved on the impact side. Yeah. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. Like many of your listeners, we knew what Tim had done on the field, how intense he had been, how passionate he had been. But I sure didn't know the extent of what he had been up to off the field. And as we got to know them and as we got to know the story, they read us in on some of the things that we just can't talk about publicly that they're up to at the foundation. And I guess the way I'll summarize it that I can say is the work at the foundation leads to the rescues of about 5 children per day from what I will call the absolute pit of hell. Some of the worst torture or abuse you could possibly imagine, Vip. And the Tim Tebow Foundation, on average, every single day is rescuing at least 5 kids. And when they read us in on how they go about that work and some of the partnerships they have with some of the most elite law enforcement agencies around the world, when they took us behind the scenes and helped us understand all that, it took my wife and I 4 minutes to say, we're all in. We had already kind of been all in, but now we're like, okay, not just our money. Now it's our time also, and our energy and our thoughts and my lack of sleep sometimes. But turning that into my, my favorite professional conversation I've ever had after we'd gone through this whole getting to know the Tim Tebow Foundation and what would later become the Tebow Group, the business side. I sat down with Tim and Demi, and what I shared with Tim, I said, hey, I just want to make sure I understand the role. What your team told me is you need me to run the business side so that you guys can spend more time on the impact side. And Tim looked at me and said, that's what my team told you? No, that's not what I need. I need you to maximize the business for impact. And I was like, oh my gosh, touchdown, put me in that game, coach. And so, again, if you go back, I've been looking to move from more success to significance, having this intense purpose in getting up day after day, being able to be active about my faith in my work, and at a level I had never been able to do it before, and having this incredible purpose that I now understood of how the Tim Tebow Foundation is literally rescuing more than 5 kids a day from the absolute pit of hell. So you put all that together, and it was like, oh my gosh, with Tim and Demi's passion and intensity and like their drive to actually get it done, not just talk about it, but to actually go do it, put all those things together, I couldn't say no. And then they made the conversation even better, Vip. Tim looked at me and said, Tommy, Demi and I have talked about this. What we really want help with is we want someone that will help us leverage everything we have for the most vulnerable people, the real MVP, and for the gospel, the good news about Jesus. And I think, most of your listeners, if they know something about the Tebows, it's that faith is a very important part of their lives as well.
Yeah.
And so, that conversation help us leverage everything we have. And then it was just help me understand, what do you mean by that? And really at the Tebow Group, the business side of the Tebow's world, there's really 3 platforms that we oversee. The first is the investment platform. You can think of this like a family office, but it's really overseeing investments, and we call it purposeful investing. How can we make money matter more by not just going after returns, but also going after impact at the same time? And that's why we're so proud to partner with the Eagle Freedom Fund, the Waterstone Impact Fund, Govo Venture Partners, Momentous Sports, Zoyer Sports, all of these organizations, Mammoth Health and Science Fund, all of these funds that literally are using their investment vehicles to try to make a massive impact for good on the world. And so think of that as one of the platforms we oversee. The second one is a technology lab. We actually incubate technologies with the goal of assisting some of our incredible partners across lots of industries, including law enforcement. And so, one of our friends will come to us and say, hey, this is a problem we're trying to solve. Our team wants to use artificial intelligence as a force for good wherever we can. So we incubate technologies to go help solve some of those really big problems. And some of that we do in partnership with Eagle as well. So again, what an incredible intersection for us. And then last but not least, we oversee the social media platform. And Tim and Demi would both tell you, it's not their platforms. They feel they've been trusted with these platforms. People are coming to them for something, usually encouragement, challenge, inspiration, whatever it may be. We oversee a platform of about 20 million followers as of today. And so we're constantly seeking, how can we meet the needs of the people that are following us for some purpose? And then how can we get them engaged in the fight for some of the most vulnerable people? And so our team does a lot of work in that area. But when Tim and Demi said, hey, help us leverage all of it, yeah, that's ultimately what they were saying to me. Help us leverage our investments, our family office, help us leverage our ability to have great partners that need technology to solve big problems, and help us leverage this social media platform and an overall good name that they've been entrusted with to maximize those things to serve the most vulnerable people around the globe.
Yeah, dude, totally love it. Yeah, it wasn't just hey, we've made some money being a football player and we need to invest that money wisely. There's a lot of people out there that are wealth advisors that help do that work. But it was really turning on the entire engine to maximize the results it could have. I mean, it's the true definition of a steward. Let's take everything. That's a whole lot of responsibility, but it's cool that you also get a chance to. Now, do you co-invest alongside because you added your foundations together?
Yeah, we did something. It's probably the weirdest financial transaction I've ever heard of or seen, Vip. Ultimately, we took a piece of everything that Tebow's own and a piece of everything my family has, and we just put it in a blender and mashed it all up. And the reason we did that was we wanted fierce alignment. Absolutely. And the only thing we knew, Vip, when we did that, the only thing we knew, and we all went into it with this mentality, is the only thing we know is somebody's going to lose. Somebody had better stuff to start with. And so therefore, by definition, someone will lose in this transaction, but none of us cared. My wife didn't care. Demi didn't care. Tim didn't care. I didn't care, because at the end of the day, it was going to the Tim Tebow Foundation to serve the most vulnerable people around the globe. So we weren't doing it to try to maximize our own individual wealth level. We were doing it to try to maximize fierce alignment in the fight for some of the most vulnerable people.
Yeah, no, and some of the folks that I know that have been most successful in business and impact have done that as well. They found someone that they could walk alongside of, because you can walk farther when you walk together. Like there's just something powerful, and there's something powerful about a person that continues to encourage you and push you in the right directions, right? Like iron sharpening iron each and every day. That's super cool. Man, so many questions that could go alongside where we're talking initially. I want to step back for a second and just think about a couple years ago. You know, the Eagle Freedom Fund had gotten started. I just took a little bit about the origin of the Freedom Fund because they all are such a big part of it. You know, the Eagle Freedom Fund had gotten started. It was an idea. We started raising a couple dollars and started to get excited about the first few investments. But I was having a conversation at this event called the Lion's Den in Birmingham, Alabama, with an old friend named Eric Goss. He'd started a kids, animated kind of streaming platform to, help kids hear about the gospel and just have a safe family environment. And a friend of mine had invested some significant capital in his recent raise, and he was like, "Man, Vip, I'd love to help you out. You guys have been such a blessing." And I was like, "Dude, I didn't do anything. Like that was completely God, arranging that person at that time, kind of investing in your platform." And he was like, no, but it just, is there anything I can do to support you guys? And I was like, "Man, we're doing this crazy thing. You probably don't know anybody who would be interested in this. We're investing in technology to fight human trafficking and slavery." I mean, it's so unusual for venture capital. No one's embracing this counter trafficking market like this. And he was like, "Actually, I may have a guy for you." And within about 24 hours, he had emailed to you, and the conversation got started with Wes and the team at Eagle. And I'm blown away that excitement went from, wait a minute, we're fighting human trafficking in this powerful, awesome way on the nonprofit side. And we've got this crazy idea investing in tech to fight trafficking over here, and how just, the Lord brought those two things together, and you guys got involved. So continue amazed that conversation happened. Anything you would add from your side? I mean, as you guys were kind of experiencing, the conversation a couple years ago?
Well, I think what was so cool, Vip, is independently, Tim had started investing in technologies that were fighting trafficking.
Like Deja Vu.
Yeah, Tim had already started doing that, and Eagle had started doing that. And then I just got to be this connector to help put them together. And Eric is such an incredible friend. The platform he's built at Minnow, just giving kids a safe place to go and experience children's content. What an important thing. And for him to know, hey, wait, y'all are doing similar things here. Why don't you just put your heads together? And I think it literally took us one call and we realized we're
Right.
we're better together.
Yep.
And that has sure played out along the way as Eagle Freedom Fund has continued to grow, and now is doing a second Eagle Freedom Fund that's going wonderfully. After the first one has had a tremendous success, taking some of these companies from 0 to 60. It's just been incredible to be part of it.
Yeah, it's fun to watch the companies grow and excel, and to see new companies get incubated, as you said. I thought it was fun, from the very beginning in collaborating with you guys. Like, people ask, what did the Tebow Group add to Eagle Freedom Fund? And I was like, of course, Tommy and Timmy are incredible people, and their reach and, their influence is awesome. Our bench press average obviously increased significantly with Timmy and you joining the team.
Not me.
Tim
for sure.
Specifically. But also, companies that would come to you guys because they'd heard about the incredible work you're doing, like a Deja Vu type company, and we learned about it because people know the Tebow Group is fighting human trafficking. So if they've got a technology, sometimes they bring those things, those ideas, those concepts to you guys and stuff like that as well. So I love how that's just blossomed in so many different ways, and the collaboration has been so encouraging. And then forming the Clapham Accelerator has just been, the icing on top of that whole thing. Do you want to talk a little bit about Clapham and some of the things that you've gotten a chance to be a part of building there?
Sure. It all started out, we have this dear friend named Scott Donnell. And actually, I think you have a podcast episode coming up, or maybe it came out before this one, but soon enough, if not already, your audience will be able to hear directly from Scott. But Scott came to us after hearing Tim talk about his passion for the fight against human trafficking. And he said, look, I don't know a lot about this fight, but man, I can't look the other way. And I may not know a lot about this fight, but I do know a lot about how to solve really big problems and how to think about them from first principles. And Scott's heart was just so pure, so incredible to say, man, he was just basically saying, Coach, put me in the game. I barely know the game, but put me in and I'll help figure it out along the way. And what Scott thought about ultimately was this idea of, we really need to bring together people on a cross-disciplinary basis. There's all these incredible people that have been in this fight for a long, long time, but that's not where innovation typically occurs, and that's not where disruption typically occurs. Almost never in business. Take it away from this whole fight against human trafficking. Almost never in business does disruption occur from within, from the insiders. By definition, their whole job is to take what they already know and make it as powerful as possible.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's so hard for disruption to ever happen from within. And what I heard Scott saying is, we need to innovate. There's probably new ways we can think about these problems, but it needs to happen from external. But why don't we bring together some of the top technologists in the world? Why don't we bring together some of the top law enforcement? Why don't we bring together some of the top nonprofits that are already in this fight? Why don't we put them all in a room and just see what happens? And man, the first time we convened everyone, it was a mess. It was a hot mess. And there just wasn't any structure, but some relationships were built. And this idea of, there probably is something to this. And here we are 3 years later, and Eagle got involved and actually brought some structure and a way of thinking systematically about putting together a dense network of people. And then things just really started to take off. So the combination of Scott Donnell and his thought of, we need to get together this dense network of innovators and disruptors. And then the Tebow's impact on how strong they can just convene people together. And then Eagle Freedom bringing some real structure to how do we actually take innovation and disruption and put some real teeth around it in a way that it can matter. Now, 3 years later, we've seen it go from aspiration to action, and it's working. Oh. And the things coming out of that group of people now, I do believe have the opportunity to change and disrupt the way that the fight against human trafficking happens. And I want to be really clear. The disruption also is honoring all the existing work that's already done. That has laid the foundation. Some of the best people in the world that we get to work with have laid the foundation that can allow the scale that I believe that can come from innovation and disruption. And so we have the just absolute pleasure and joy to work with people on both sides of that, both the existing powerhouses as well as the future disruptors. And hopefully we can help them go further faster.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts is being able to co-create. I think that's just an awesome thing that we get a chance to do. Is you've got the people that have been around for a while and the people that are new and even more innovative, discovering stuff at in real time, right? And we're able to spend time together co-creating. I mean, I think 4 or 5 companies have even built out of those meetings, because you've got some people in a room. I still remember the first conversation with Jason Williamson. We're talking, Wade and him were chatting, and they're like, well, I think we could build that. Like my son and I could put that together in a heartbeat. And it's just amazing how, if you get the right people in the room, it really is incredible and they have the same passion to solve the same problem and for the same group of people, those most vulnerable people that you guys always talk about. Then man, sky's really the limit in so many of these things. So excited to continue to build with you guys. So one question I have for those people who are out there and they're like, we've talked about a big, immense like role and responsibility, a lot of tasks that you guys are going after, from, social media impact, business interest, all those kind of things. What's a general day in the life look like for a guy like Tommy Martin? Is it just all phone calls from the golf course, or what does it look like?
I wish I was a good enough golfer that could be true, but no, Vip, part of what I love, God wired me with ADD pretty severely. Yep. And thankfully he did, because I need it for this role. Every day is something different. Every day is something new. We might be launching a new book. Might be launching a new New York Times best-selling book.
Yeah, I think so far.
Well, actually, between Tim and Demi, we're now up to 9.
Wow.
So yeah, 9 New York Times bestsellers. And more coming soon. We might be launching a documentary with our friends. We have an incredible documentary coming out next year. I can't give details on that yet, but really excited about that. So we might be working on a social media thing. We might be working on a media thing. Tim speaks and Demi speaks all over the country, sometimes all over the world. So, that's a part of any given day. And then on top of that, all the work that the foundation is doing. And so there is no normal day, and I love it. Yeah. I love it. I'm so thankful there's no normal day. But, I think my most important role is as a connector. And so I'm really blessed, Vip, to get to interface with world leaders, global company leaders and political leaders, thought leaders, and just help figure out how can we get these people connected in order to do and accomplish more good for as many vulnerable people as possible, as quick as we can. Okay. And so I'm so honored, so grateful that I get to be in that position, to be that connector. So a big part of most of my days is just making those connections.
Yeah. I do want to say, too, for those out there, your humility in taking some roles, I think sometimes it's been really encouraging. I love the fact that at things like Kingdom Advisors or, at a Clapham Accelerator event, you're willing to be the guy behind the table, just welcoming people to the event, shaking a hand, saying hi. At the Kingdom Advisors, people who have never heard of the Tebow Group before, and then they hear Timmy speak, and they're like, man, tell me more about what's going on. You take that very first conversation with people to be the CEO and executive at an organization, and still just having the joy of making those very first interactions with for people with the Tebow Group count, and just be full of joy and welcoming is something I've always been impressed with. So thanks for continuing to be the first handshake people have, and also, a big, role in the overall running of the organization as well. I just think that's amazing. Final question for you as we kind of close this down. As you look at the future, 5-10 years out from now, in the fight against human trafficking, you could comment about this, as well as like in the work that you guys are doing. Where do you see this going, especially on the Tebow Group side?
Yeah, I think I'll talk a little bigger picture of it, but in any given day, 25,000 people begin their journey of human trafficking. 25,000, and less than 500 exit. So, and by the way, that's just... It's not good math, but those are the best numbers we know. This work happens in secret. So if anything, those are probably understated numbers on how bad the problem is. If you do the math, it's about 9 million people per year that begin their journey in human trafficking. It's staggering the number of people that this impacts. And so for me, if I had a goal before I pass on to heaven, it would be that we could see the supply and the demand shift where the number of people going into their journey of human trafficking every day, and then the number of people coming out, that those would actually meet, and then the number of people coming out would exceed the number of people going in.
Yeah.
If that could be part of my legacy, and by the way, I'd be super happy if that was a legacy that no one knew about except my family. I've never needed my name on the door. I'm happy to be the guy behind the scenes. In fact, it shocks people, but I'm actually a pretty big introvert. And so going out and being that first guy to shake people's hands and be there, a lot of that is driven because of how many times I've gone to an event and been petrified because I was walking into a new room and I didn't know anyone.
Right.
And so this is just my way of helping ease the pain for, the half of the people that are going to enter that event as introverts. But yeah, Vip, if I could say my personal goal, my personal legacy, it would be that we get on the other side of supply and demand, that that literally we would be bringing more people, recovering or rescuing more people every day from being trafficked than those who are beginning being trafficked. And we have a long way to go. And we're so grateful. We get to work with some of the most elite law enforcement and nonprofit organizations in the world, people doing incredible, incredible work. And yet the best of the best of the best, it's leading to, as best as we can tell, about 500 recoveries per day. And that's nowhere close to the 25,000 that are beginning their journey. So it's going to be a heroic effort. It's going to have to be a God-ordained effort. It's going to take a lot of people coming together. It's not about us at Tebow. It is about an army coming together in this fight for the most vulnerable people. And I pray that as that continues to occur, that at some point in my lifetime, we could see the number of people going in and the number of people coming out actually shift, where more people are coming out every day than are going in. And Vip, that's the day I pray that the Lord would take me home.
Nice. I like it. Well, hey, I always tell people, if you're going to do something like this, like tell the story, you got to give people a call to action and opportunity. One thing about when Tebow shares, he always, gives some people something to feel. He gives some people something to think. And then he gives a call to action, like, hey, what are we going to do about this? So if somebody's listened to the podcast this morning and they're like, man, really encouraged by the work of TTF, the foundation, or the TTG, the group that you oversee, what's the next step for them? Should they go to a website? How can they learn more, get involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking that, Vip. And, this is directly from Tim and Demi Tebow. They would be the first to tell your listeners, it is not about us. It's not about them. And so the first thing we would always encourage is just do more in the area that's breaking your heart. Especially if maybe from your worldview, it's not just breaking your heart, but it's also breaking God's heart. Like, do more there. So that's what we'd really encourage. And we have some great, just dear friends. They have launched something called Solving the World's Greatest Problems. And the first thing they do is they help people identify what is it that breaks your heart the most. And so that is a website called solving.org. You can go there and try to figure out what breaks your heart the most. Get actively involved there. For those of you that the things that break your heart the most are really some of the most vulnerable children, maybe in these areas of fighting human trafficking, maybe the area of individuals with disabilities, or maybe in the area where individuals have life-threatening medical illnesses, or beyond. Really, the mission that we've signed up for is to help people in their darkest hour of need. So if that resonates with some of your listeners, then absolutely come find us. You can go to timtebowfoundation.org and you can find out more about what we're up to day in and day out at the Tim Tebow Foundation. There's also tebowgroup.com, and you can interface with what we're up to on the business side of the world as well. Ultimately, we would love it if somebody wants to become a contributor, a defender of the most vulnerable. They can do that at the timtebowfoundation.org website, or perhaps they're already an accredited investor and they want to join us at the Tebow Group in some of the investment opportunities that the Tebow Group has access to that aren't just trying to gain a return, but are also fighting for the mission at the same time. And you can learn about that on the business side of what we do. So thanks for asking, Vip.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for being with us, Tommy, and look forward to the next conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Vip.